Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi, hello friends, and welcome to another weekly wrap up. And no, this is not an ad, this is not a paid sponsorship. I am going to talk about how I use my brick to help me read more and stay more focused, especially since I've had brain fog off and on since November. I bought a brick in February, and the time periods when I've used my brick have helped me be a lot more productive, especially with my obsession with heated rivalry and off campus as well. I promise not to talk about that too much, but it is quite relevant to how I've helped myself be more focused. And I just decided, I was like, that's not going to be clickbait. That's going to be real. I'm going to talk about it for a minute. And it's not an ad. I'm not going to post a link to it or do any of the things. You can just go look up brick if you want more about it. That's what I did when I started seeing people do ads for it. Because I'm not doing an ad. This isn't a paid sponsorship. They're not supporting me. I legit didn't even know that you could block social media apps. I didn't know that was a thing. And then I heard about Brick, obviously, being advertised. And it definitely has been an investment. But when I see what my productivity is with it, it's definitely worth it. I've talked to a lot of my friends about it. I had actually seen an author who was using it that finally pushed me into being like, oh, this is real, that it wasn't just an ad being pushed to me. And I think it was, who was the author now? Was it Emily McIntyre, or was it, now I wish I'd taken a screenshot of it. But it was an author who said that they would brick all day to keep them off of threads. And that's what I had to do too. And so, yeah, I bought it back in February and I use it quite often. And I mean, yeah, I'll save it. I'll save it for the end to tell you like how it helped me in case people don't want to. Because again, it's not an ad. I'm not going to push it. I don't have a link for it. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I literally don't get an affiliation off of it. I'm not trying to. But for people who say like they're in a slump or their attention span is bad, I'm not saying mine is all of a sudden fixed with this. Like I do think there are some downsides to it. And there are, since I've been using it on and off since February, I do have a few ways that I get around it that I want to tell you the weaknesses of it. But for those of you who've seen it and think it might be a gimmick, I don't think it's a gimmick either. I think it helps you, but it only helps you as much as you let it help you. And your brain is a devious thing, and it will let you find ways around it as much as you let it. So you do still have to have some discipline. But the days when I'm feeling really weak, if I can just have the strength for it in the beginning of the day to set it up, then it's easier for me throughout the day. So again, I'm going to talk about it at the end as just a little, like I'm just going to review it for you as a non-sponsored product that, again, I'm not trying to make any money off of. And then, you know what? If someone at Brick happens to see this and wants to sponsor me, you guys will know that I reviewed it. I paid the $45 with this. And you guys will know that I paid for it with my own money. I can show you a receipt for it because it's in my accounting. And you'll know that I actually bought one myself and have used it. So let's get into it though. First off, I have two new supporters to welcome. A new fated friend to the channel. We have Kimberly. Kimberly, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for supporting me here. I appreciate you so much. Channel members have the opportunity to get early access to videos, usually at least 24 hours, because it's mostly a me thing. I usually film about 24 hours in advance, so they get early access to that. There are also monthly hangouts where you just get to hang out with me for an hour and we can chat about whatever you want. There are a poll every month to vote on a video to sponsor, as well as updates that I put on the community tab just for members. Then I have a new patron to welcome as well, Carly L. Carly, thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. Over on Patreon, there are many different tiers and benefits to choose from, but the most common ones over there are getting to vote on a book that I review exclusively for patrons every month. There are also dedicated vlogs only for patrons. Right now I'm doing about 2 vlogs a month is how it's working out, and 1 dedicated review a month. There are also updates over there. There's early access to my annotated pre-orders that I do. There are there's the annotated book a month, but that is sold out over there. So I would say that tier is available, but it's also usually sold out there as well. So thank you to the new supporters. I literally can't do what I do without you guys. So thank you so much. Okay, now to get into what I read, because I wasn't joking when I put the title up. That's why we're going to talk about Brick today, because I did get through 8 things this week, and only one of them was a fan fiction, by the way. I got through some big ass books this week, and only one of, well, I guess 2 was a reread, but we'll talk about the one that was a reread. Was kind of interesting. So the first thing that I read was a book I annotated called The Expanse Between Us by N.R. Scarano. I believe this is also Nicole Scarano is what I was putting together, who also writes romantasy. I don't know, but this one was a sci-fi, and it was also a like survival romance too. It's a like stranded on an alien planet, but it starts off with Driver, who is a captain, and him and his crew, I guess, are transporting a heiress named Serling. I cannot tell you how many times I wanted to call her Sterling, but it's Serling, S-E-R, not S-T-E-R. It's Serling. She is the heiress to a galactic empire, I'd say, or something like that. Or I guess not an empire, because, I mean, he calls her princess, but is she really a princess? I can't quite recall. But anyway, something happens where their ship ends up going down on this deserted planet, and they are the only 2 that survive. Now, one of the things that's said right away in Driver's mind is he thinks that Serling is one of the most beautiful women he's ever seen, but she's also a raging bitch. That's how she's described. Everyone describes her that way. Even she can acknowledge that she is a raging bitch. Now, very quickly on, though, we do kind of understand that a lot of that comes from her family pressure, the type of parent that she has both her parents, but her father puts a lot of pressure on her. I can't remember if we find this out right away. It might actually be something we find out throughout the book, but she's being transported not really for her own enjoyment, but because her father has a duty she must perform. So she's not exactly happy to be on this trip either. But she's causing problems for the crew the whole time she's on this ship. And before the crash happens, she's giving a lot of problems to everybody. And there's a few times where Driver has to confront her about how she's treating his crew. And he's like, you can't treat my people this way. And she's like, what are you going to do about it? Like, you can't stop me because my father pays your bills. Like, she's just very bitchy, very unlikable. And I think she's really, like, when I look back at it now, I feel like she's almost trying to get, like, kicked off the ship or something like that, is what I think from a charitable view is probably what's happening. But she just has a real bad attitude. But anyway, they end up then getting stranded, and then the story is about their survival for a few months anyway, unsure whether they will get rescued or not. And of course, they're going to end up bonding and falling in love, and then it's a story about what will once they get found. So there were some things I liked. Like, I love a survival story. I love them trying to make it. I liked how, you know, there were some alien creatures, there were surviving against the elements, there's, you know, sci-fi stuff we're dealing with too, like there's some technology they have. But there also was a lot of this that was a struggle because the characters were just written almost as caricatures of themselves as well. Like, the heroine Serling, who's supposed to be a brat, and whether or not she has those nuances that I was prescribing to her, they weren't exactly written into the character. That's me, like I said, trying to be kind of generous to her and trying to find some good things about her. She's written to be, I think, 29, and she was acting probably 16, very spoiled rich girl. And if she was doing that in the beginning as an act to try to defy her father, I don't feel like she needed to continue doing it once the plane crashed, and she did continue to do that. They're in a very dangerous situation, and she just continues to, like, disobeys the wrong thing because she doesn't have to obey him, I guess, but she fights against him at every turn while they are trying to survive, and she just has that too stupid to live attitude. Getting herself and him in some very dangerous situations throughout. So yeah, and then when they fall in love, to me, it felt very lust-based why they did, and we're the only two on this planet, so I guess we're gonna be fucking and falling in love anyway. And then, yeah, I don't want to spoil the ending. So there was some parts of it that were fun, but their relationship never made sense to me. It was all like lust-based for him. And when her character started to turn, when she started to be nice, I didn't see the reason for it. So it just felt very like, oh, now she's nice and it's okay to like her now. And I just didn't really believe it. But it was a fun story. It was pretty quick. It was only like 230 pages. And I haven't read a sci-fi in so long that wasn't like dystopian. So it was a fun time to read it. So I was glad that I tried this one and annotated it for one of the pre-orders that I did. So it was a good time. But I did end up giving this one a 3.5 star. And I don't know, I think it was like a 2.5, a 3 on the spice scale for me. There was some parental like gaslighting and emotional abuse, and there was some like monster violence and things like that in this one from the creatures on the alien planet and survival situations and stuff. Okay, next up was Untamed Beast by Madison Juno, and this was an arc that I actually got off of NetGalley. This was just a random decision by me. I, was going through NetGalley and I saw Mafia on there. I've done this a few times in the past, actually. I found a couple really fun arcs on NetGalley that were Mafia before. And I never heard of Madison Juno before, and I grabbed it. I didn't realize this was book 3 in a series, but whatever, that didn't really matter to me. And this one was a Bratva romance. And it was about Natalia, who, in the beginning of this book, she's about to be married to her, like, 3rd or 4th fiance that her family has set her up with. And we learn that, like, she's the one who's gotten herself out of these marriages every time by finding out embarrassing information about her intended and then outing them before the marriage so that she could get out of it. And her family is like, you gotta stop doing this, da da da. Well, after she gets out of this most recent marriage, an enemy of her family, this man named Alexander, or Lex, who is supposedly responsible for the death of 2 of her brothers, he ends up demanding an engagement to her. And of course her family doesn't want her engaged to him, but he's holding something over her father. So, and to prevent her from ruining this marriage, they force her to marry him like immediately. So now she's gotten out of 3 marriages before, but now she's married to her family's biggest rival or enemy, Lex. Now Lex is on a mission, we learn, against her father because he didn't kill her 2 brothers. In fact, he used to be dear friends, or dear is maybe the wrong term to use with Bratva, but he was friends with Natalia's brothers. And he's actually on a mission to uncover the truth of what happened to them. And he wants Natalia as kind of like leverage against her father. So he's not planning to sleep with her or do anything with her, but like keep her for leverage. But of course, when she's living in his house, they start falling for one another. I really wanted to like this story because it got off to a really fun start. Honestly, fun is weird, but it did, because Natalia starts off seeming so feisty with her having broken up these 3 engagements beforehand and then being kind of forced into this marriage at the last minute with Lex, who's supposed to be the one who's responsible for killing her brothers. But then he seems to be so like caring with her, lets her bring her cat to live with them, is like giving her space, not trying to force her into anything. So he just seems so contradictory to everything she's been told that this guy is. So all of these things are just so not what she's expecting. And then all of his men are like treating her so well, even though she has her family encouraging her to spy on him. And they're like, actually, this could be our chance to finally take down this man who's responsible for killing your brothers. And so they're trying to use her like against him and all of this stuff. So it had the potential to be really exciting. And then it just really fell apart for me. And Natalia, who was so clever in the beginning, just was completely manipulated by her family and made dumb decision after dumb decision for the entirety of the rest of the book. So any like credit she had with me at the start, she made stupid decisions through the rest of it. And Lex, he is not completely forgiven for this either, because he has the opportunity to be honest with her and to like get her on his side and get the information he needs way sooner. And I get it. There's plot reasons and there's this and that, but it just drug on way too long. And in doing so, in trying to draw it out longer, it made them both look stupid, right? And this is the thing, like, to put this out there, this is a weakness that I brought up in, I'm not trying to say that this author should write like a different author, okay? I'm not trying to say that, so don't take it that way. Because I even complained about this when I talked about Frozen Heart, how I felt like the author, Neva Altaj, drug that story on so long that it lost any excitement I had about it. Whereas the earlier books that author wrote, she used to get to the point so much quicker. And even though it was a shorter story, it was so impactful, right? This is a story that I think it honestly could have been like 200 pages and been really punchy and fun if he got her under his roof, made her fall for him, told her what was really going on, and they wrapped it up. Sure, it could have felt a little unbelievable and quick, but it also, if Natalia was out from under the clutches of her family and got to see what was really going on, I would have believed that she had turned quickly because she seemed to be so smart in the beginning. So when her eyes were open to the truth, if she believed it quickly, I would believe that. And instead, having her be so stubborn and foolishly believe her family when the truth is right in front of her eyes, that didn't make her seem loyal to her family. It made her seem disloyal to her brothers who died and stupid. So yeah, I ended up really disliking this one. And yeah, it was an arc. I gave it a 3, like I rounded it to a 3. And it was a 3 on the spice scale, but I didn't care for it. And I probably won't read this author again. And again, maybe I shouldn't have started with book 3, but that's the one that was on NetGalley. So when an author's putting it on NetGalley and like it's your first read of it, it should be able to stand alone, and it just didn't work for me. Okay, next up, I did have a singular fanfic that I read this week, but it was a little shorty, and it was so sweet. I love this one. It was called Shane and Ilya Again and Again by Camille's World, and this was an AU where Ilya never played for Boston. So he does play hockey, but he played for like the Russian Federation, or like whatever the hockey is called there. So when Shane goes to the Olympics, Ilya is on the Russian team and he's still over there. And Shane ends up running into Ilya outside of like the arena there or something, and like Ilya's team has just lost, and Shane recognizes Ilya from like the juniors, World Juniors, but Ilya had never like played in, he like never joined the NHL or whatever it is in this universe. And anyway, Shane goes up to talk to him, and he sees that something's wrong. And what it is Ilya's having a depressive episode, so trigger warnings for that. And just something in Shane is like, I don't understand. I don't know this person, because again, he hasn't been playing against this guy in the same way he has before. They don't have a relationship at all. Just he knows his name. He knows who he is. He's admired him from very afar now. They only know each other's names. But Shane just feels something's wrong, and he refuses to leave Ilya alone. And in fact, he brings Ilya back to his hotel, which is the Olympic Village. And him and actually, like, they end up calling Svetlana. Like, they get Ilya to give me the number, like, call someone who you trust. And so he calls Svetlana, and Shane like talks to her, and Svetlana comes. But like Shane and Cliff, who's there for the American team, and someone else, like they take turns sitting with Ilya and Svetlana. And so I don't want to tell the whole one because it's a pretty short book, but through this like couple of days that like Shane and Ilya are like, because Ilya is going to need to go back to Moscow. They're in Sochi for this. Ilya stays at Svetlana's hotel in Sochi, and Shane and Ilya get to see each other one more time. And Svetlana and Shane kind of even, because he talks to Shane once more, like, but mostly Svetlana, who is living in the United States. She'd come back to Russia, obviously, for the Olympics and everything. They convince Ilya to try to get into the NHL. So he ends up doing that in this story. And he ends up coming to the United States like years later than normal. And when he comes here, it's with the knowledge that like him and Shane already kind of have something forming between the two of them when he comes here. So it was very sweet. I really liked it. And again, I know it does start off with some of those trigger warnings of Ilya's in a pretty dark place, but it's a very sweet fic. I really like this one, and I do highly recommend it. Link will be down below. Okay, next up was a book that I was rereading for actually quite a few months because I was reading it to my friend Sarah. Now, I've talked about this before on the channel if you've been around for a while, that my best friend Sarah and I, we read books to each other. We have since we were teenagers. Obviously, it happens a lot less now with our lives and the fact that she's going to be a mom very soon. But one book that we've been working on this year was actually West by Edith Batow. So my favorite book of all time is called East by Edith Batow. And we did reread that to each other at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And Sarah has never read West. Now, I read West when it first came out, and I hate it. I'm just being honest. I hate it. I don't think it ever should have been written. It retcons the end of East, and I hate that because, again, East is my favorite book of all time, ever. Fairy tale based on East of the Sun, West of the Moon. It's a perfect book to me. I love it more and more. When I reread it with Sarah, and I cried more this time than I have in years, like as an adult, and like with like empathizing more with like the parents in the book this time. Like I legit cried multiple times reading it to Sarah this time. West is infuriating. I don't want to go into the whole thing, but the point is like I hated it. But Sarah wanted to read it, and if Sarah, like I read it to her. Well, she was packing to move into her house, and then we had a big break. But then recently we pushed to get through it, because the next book we're going to read, I'm not going to tell you guys which one we're going to do next yet, because it might be a while till we get to it. But there's a book we're going to read next that I've been wanting us to get to for a long time, and she wanted us to do West first since we just did East. So I was like, okay, we'll do West. But then it took us forever. So we finally got through West. But yeah, just a few things about it is like, this is still technically like a YA book, but it does take place 3 years after East. And like Rose, the heroine, you know, like her and her white bear, like they have a child, but then stuff happens and like their child is taken and there's a whole new adventure to go on. And like, it's like still a YA book, but the themes of this one are even so much darker than what East is. Like East, the themes are dark, but the way the story is told is whimsical. So it's that kind of fairy tale, like a lot of fairy tales, where like you can read it on one level and almost read it to a child, but an adult can take the heavier themes, which is like why I said when I reread East, I cried so much this time, because I'm just feeling all the heavy themes that exist in it as an adult, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like if this was happening to my child, like it would just mean so much more, right? But West is just a disaster from start to finish. So I despise it, and I didn't love rereading it, and I gave it the same as the first time, which was 2.5 stars. And I hope I never have to reread it again. And I told Sarah, you're welcome. Let us never speak of this book. It does not exist. To me, it was fan fiction written by the author. I don't know what she was thinking. It's an abomination, okay? And actually one of the very earliest videos on my channel is actually a review of West. I haven't had the stomach to go back and watch it, but I know my sentiments were the same. Why did this exist? So, but I finished it, and there we go. Okay, next up though, thankfully, after that 2.5 star, I had a reread of Rise of Ink and Smoke, because I was, let's find it, I was annotating this for the pre-order, so this will be getting sent out to the person who pre-ordered this one. But this was one of my 6-star reads. I've talked about this book so much, so I won't fully get into it, but this is a spin-off from the Frozen Fate trilogy. It was one of my 6-star reads this year. Pam Godwin is amazing. I also was actually doing an immersive reread for most of it. Some parts of it I paused the audiobook because I just needed to read faster than the audiobook was going. But the audiobook was also gifted to me by Podium Audio, which was wonderful. It was one of my first books that I was gifted to by them. And I forgot to write the narrators in for this. Dang it. Why didn't I do that? Oh, but anyway, I was listening to this one while I was annotating it, which was really cool. But yeah, this is this Wolf Song's story, and it is actually an MMF because he meets actually a step-sibling pair who is not a pair at the beginning of this, but by the end of it, they are a throuple by the end. So I love this story. It was beautiful, and I'm very proud of myself that way back, before there was even an inkling, when she said she would give us Wolf's story, I made a prediction that he was going to be in an MMF relationship, because it was clear that he liked both men and women, even though he had been assaulted by a man. It was clear to me that he liked both men and women, or was attracted to both men and women, and that he like needed both control and to be controlled, and that's what he gets, and I love it. So 6-star reread, lots of trigger warnings. This is also a roundup and revisiting of many other characters, particularly from the Freedom Fighter series by Pam Godwin as well. So very satisfying there. Okay, then I had an ALC of High Water by Maggie Rodden. This is the 4th book in her, oh shoot, I always forget the series, but like there's Bull Rush, Dark Horse, Something and High Water are the books in here. And this one was a secret baby, but also I thought he was dead one. Brother's best friend, who was also raised with them for a few years when he was a teen, but then he went and joined the military. She thought he died in the military. She was married to someone else. She recently is divorced. She's moving back to her hometown. She is like an archaeologist as well. There are relics that the family is looking for. He now like is working with the family again. And she finds out he's not dead. And so then she's like, well, you have a teenage daughter, but I thought you were dead. So they get reunited. And then his family, who, like I said, he was raised with her family for a few years because his father was so abusive. But he does have some family left. And his grandmother, is willing to leave the family ranch to whichever of her grandsons has a family. And so if he can get married to Aspen and, you know, he already has a daughter, then they can get left the land. And they want the land because there's an artifact that is buried on the land. So that's what's going on in there. There's a buried treasure that they're looking for and everything. So love this. Loved being with the family. Really good narration. It was Connor Craze and Lucy Rivers. Though I will say I listened to a few too many books this month narrated by Connor Craze because all I can hear is his voice now in Any Man. And I love him. Okay, I love him so much. But every book I would go to pick up, it's his voice. And I'm like, okay, I need a different one. Like there's still 2 others that I have to listen to this month. Well, there's more than that, but there's 2 others still this month that are also him. And I have to like break it up so that I can keep the books distinct because it's just all Connor Craze and all that. Good for him. He is booked and busy in a world of AI narration trying to become a thing. So good for him, my guy. Good for him. But I'm just like, whew, it's all blending together for me. But duet narration, it was great. But I did give this one 4 stars. I just didn't quite connect with it as much as some of the other books in the series, but still really good, and I love Maggie Rodden's books. Okay, then there was Falling for Her Brother's Best Friend by Noelle Adams. There's also the cute new cover. I actually bought this book myself before I ever started working for her. Amazon had some of her paperbacks. This was when I was trying to read Noelle Adams books. I had read everything by Claire Kent that I thought that I could read at the time. There's so many books by her. I work for her now, and I definitely haven't read everything yet. There are so many. Okay. But I was trying to read more of her backlist, and Amazon had a bunch of her paperbacks for only $5.99 at that time. So I bought the whole Tea for Two series on sale. But the new cover looks like this, and it's beautiful. But anyway, this one is the first in the Tea for Two series. And this one is about Emma and Noah. And so Emma is going on a guy fast after she gets out of a relationship with a guy who was cheating on her. And so she's not going to date for the next 6 months. And I'm like, please, only 6 months? Try longer than that. But then Noah Hart is her brother's best friend. But I will say it's also her best friend's brother because his sister's name is Ginny, I think her name is. So it's kind of funny. I was laughing. This one's a brother's best friend and also a best friend's brother. But Noah's back in town because he has a sick grandmother. And he doesn't even recognize Emma when she goes to the airport she's actually there to pick up her brother. And he sees this woman sitting at the airport bar and like goes to hit on her and then realizes it's her after he's already hit on her. So that's super awkward. He gets off on the wrong foot with her after all these years. But to be fair, he remembers her as looking very different. So yeah, they get off to the wrong foot. But yeah, the more time they spend together, the harder it is to deny the connection that they have. But both his sister and her brother, they are very cautious about the fact that he's not going to be in town for very long. And also, you're on a dating fast, girl, so what are you doing? What are you doing? But it was a really fun one, and those books are going to be going into KU, I believe, in July. So that's why I was reading these ones to get some content for them for her. So I don't rate the books that I read for my author, but that one is really cute. So I believe you'll be able to get that in KU in July. So I'll have the link for that down below. And then the final book that I got through, which I finished it just the day after release, so I was proud of myself. And what a joy it was, this one. I knew I was going to love this one, guys, and I really, really did. It was great. Was Try Again, Baby by Julia Wolf. And this is the first book in her Wells Brothers series. This one is Ben. And yeah, I knew this one was going to be great, even though it was a secret baby. And the setup also was pretty much what I thought it was going to be, because Ben is Roman's twin, okay? And when this one had said that in the blurb something that it's been 5 years since she'd seen him and he rejected her, I was like, whoa, that wasn't Ben who rejected her. Like, I just immediately was like, well, Roman did that. Because we already know, if you've read, oh, why do I always forget Roman's books? Like, I always forget the name of Roman's book. I really should remember. By the Letter. There we go. By the Letter. Because Roman was kind of an ass to Shira, you know, before he found out she was going to be his baby mama, and before he found out what type of woman she was. So when I read the blurb, I literally said, I was like, Roman's the one who's going to fuck this up, and he's going to feel awful, because it also happened before Shira. So the setup of this one is that there is a flight that they both take, which actually Ben ends up covering her flight for her. And we don't, he doesn't know this either, but like, so he's 10 years older than her. She's only actually, I think, 19, barely 20 when this happens. But he covers her flight for her because there's a mix-up, and they end up sitting in business class next to each other. But then their plane has to divert, and they end up at a hotel together for the night, and they have a one-night stand. And they don't get each other's information. Ben is fine with this being a one-night stand, so is she. But they have a really hot night together. And she does find out that he plays rugby and what team he's on, but they don't have each other's info. And when she finds out she's pregnant, a couple months later, she goes to one of his games. And at that time, like, Roman is still playing. And she runs into Roman outside of the game. And because, you know, Wells is still on the back of his jersey and it looks exactly like him, but he doesn't recognize her. And it has been 6 months and she's pregnant. And he says, don't contact me again or I'll sue you if you say this is my baby. The irony for poor Roman, who is trying to look out for him and his brother. But yeah, he sends her away. And she doesn't know he has a twin. Ben never shared that he had a twin. They just had a one-night stand. So sadly, that's the only time she ever tries. And because she is poor and it's just her, like, and her, anyway, there's so much with her. But anyway, the point is she never tries again, which that type of stuff does always frustrate me. But, you know, Roman does say, if you ever try to reach out again, I'll sue you. But the thing is with it, like, I'm just putting it out there, she also does end up going to, like, school to be a lawyer and should know that that would only work if she was lying. Like, if she really thought that was Ben who said that to her, like, it doesn't matter if he says, I'll sue you. If the baby in your belly is his, he owes you the money. It doesn't matter if he says you're lying. you weren't lying, right? But her whole thing is her pride, and she's like, I don't want a man who doesn't want me. But like, he is a rugby player who has a lot of money and you're poor. And the thing is too, she has a condition that their daughter also has where she needs eye surgeries. The condition's talked about in the book, but you deserve the help with this. So it's one of those setups where you're just like, you know that if it was real life, you would have tried again. And it wouldn't have mattered if it was Roman or Ben who told you to go stuff it to not believe you. You should have tried again for the sake of your baby. But we let it go. Also because, again, if you've read By the Letter and you'd met Ben Wells, you, the reader, already feel it in the pit of your stomach that A, Roman's gonna regret that he reacted that way because we know that he has a kid now. And B, we know what type of uncle that Ben is and what kind of dad that Ben would be. And we know that he is going to literally die when he finds out he missed out on all of this. And he's going to literally lose his shit on his brother for reacting that way and not thinking for a second that, hey, you have a twin. You have a twin and maybe it isn't you who got someone pregnant. Like, he literally, it could have been his twin, right? So this isn't just you saying you didn't recognize a girl. Like, it could always be your twin who did it. You know what I mean? Like, it could. So anyway, so then this is all the setup, of course. Ben eventually ends up, because he had been playing in, I don't know which city he'd been in, but now he's in Colorado playing for whatever team is there. And Mazzy, I think is how we say her name, Mazzy. I haven't even said the heroine's name in this book. Her cousin is a like sports reporter for like the college in town or whatever. And she goes and actually confronts Ben and is like, I'm Mazzy's cousin and you're an asshole, and just starts going off on him. And he's like, Mazzy's your cousin? Oh my God, give her my phone number, like blah, blah. And she's like, you're an ass. And Ben's like, I am? Like, what did I do? And he's literally just like, I don't understand what's going on. And she's like, yes, you do. And he's like, no, I literally don't. And so it of course leads to her agreeing to meet up with him. And it's so frustrating. Like, you're like, Julia, have him mention the twin already. Like, come on, get to the point. It's also annoying how long it takes Ben to mention he has a twin. Like, it takes him so long to mention he has a twin who also played rugby. Like, it takes a ridiculous amount of time, because as soon as like Mazzy starts explaining that like you blew me off, he's like, I could have had a concussion. I'm like, buddy, no, you have a twin who's exactly your size and looks like you and has wells on his back. Like, anyway, it's all part of the suspense of it, building you up to this crash. But eventually it gets spilled out and Ben is like, I literally have a twin brother and I would never have turned you away. And of course, Mazzy is then just like, I definitely should have tried again. Like, I only tried once, But that is what Julia Wolf is so good at doing, because again, there would be no tension in this book at all if we didn't have those misunderstandings. And I wouldn't normally be able to handle a secret baby like this if I didn't already know the temperament of Ben. Like, I know him. I knew when she announced that this was a secret baby, that there was a 5-year gap. I was like, well, I know how this happened and I know how Ben is going to react. And yeah, he's really pissed at Roman, and Roman's devastated because he didn't know about his lady being pregnant for a while. And that was just the pregnancy. And he knows how devastating it was. And he knows how special it's been to be with Shira when she had his baby and being there. And the fact that his twin, his blood, didn't get to be there for the birth of his daughter and to be there with the woman who had the baby. Like, he knows what that means. And then also plenty of jokes from Adrian saying, do we need to teach a class about condoms again? Because, of course, Adrian owns the sex club and everything. So, anyway, that's the setup of this one. It was exactly as I suspected it would be, and I loved every second of it, and of course it was lovely. There is still some conflict to show up. I won't spoil what that is, and I loved it. I gave this 5 stars. I will say that I wish I could have read this one all in one sitting. I wish I could have given it the attention of all one sitting, because I think if I did, I maybe would have been more emotionally devastated and probably would have cried. And I know that sounds weird saying, but you guys know, to push me into the 6-star zone, I really need to be like crying about the story more. And I didn't quite get to that. So it's a solid 5-star, absolutely. But it didn't quite push me to a 6-star the way some of hers have before. Also just because, as I said, I knew how he got to this situation, that doesn't mean it wasn't frustrating, right? Just because I didn't know, like, how we could have got here, that doesn't mean it wasn't like, okay, you have my buy-in because you're Julia Wolf. That doesn't mean I'm not shaking my head at you a little bit and being like, okay, stop it. Like, you're drawing this out for longer than it needs to be, you know. And I get frustrated with a heroine too, who makes those decisions for pride rather than for the protection of your child. And if you knew that a rugby player who's worth a lot of money got you pregnant, and then he's trying to act like he doesn't know you and says, I'm going to sue you, you're like, I don't care, buddy. Pee on this stick. Because also, guess what? Even if it had been Roman, the DNA would have matched because they were identical twins. So, which it wouldn't have been, because when Roman would have told his brother, hey, this woman's claiming that I got her pregnant, then we would have figured it out, right? Like, it was all just a mix-up, because when he would have said his name is Roman Wells, she would have said, oh, I'm looking for Ben Wells, and we would have figured it out. Like, she was young and scared as part of the point too. That is part of the point too. She was only 19, and she had never told Ben her age. He was 29. And it's not like she was lying to him. She was legal. It's fine. But she was intimidated by this big rugby player telling her, you're lying. Don't come to me again or I'll sue you. And that scared her, right? But you should have pursued it a little harder, you know? Like, that always frustrates me in these. But anywho, I enjoyed it so much, and if you don't mind a little bit of that snafu at the beginning, Ben is so gone for her right away. His first meeting with the little girl, the way the uncles are with the little girl, so cute. The little girl has to wear her glasses because of her eye condition. So cute. So cute. When she meets her cousins, like, the vast majority of the book is just an adorable ride the whole way through. Like, truly. That's what I'm saying is, like, you're just waiting in the beginning for us to be like, okay, get to the mushy gushy, because you know, if you've read any Julia Wolf like I have, that she just wants to pour mushy gush all over you, and she does. And I can't wait to read Adrian's book. I can't wait. And I have, like, I don't know what's coming for Nate at all. I'm very intrigued about Nate. Adrian, of course, is who we're set up to love, because we get some more teases about him. His is looking like it's going to be a friends to lovers, which did not expect Mr. Sex Clubs would be a friends to lovers, but that one's what's coming. Okay, now, if you don't care about my thoughts on Brick, have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching so much. We'll see you in the next video, which, by the way, just an update, I did film my final thoughts on Off Campus. That is going to go up for a Tuesday video. I filmed it yesterday. It's done. I just have to edit it because it's a long one. It isn't a recap of episodes 7 and 8. It is just kind of a final thoughts on the adaptation as a whole, and stuff like that. So that's going to go up as a Tuesday video as a bonus thing. So yeah, that will be going up. But yeah, let me give you my thoughts on Brick and how I use it or how I don't use it. And, but otherwise, that's the end of my recap for today. So, like I said, this thing has been extremely useful to me. And I do think that the buy-in of paying $50 for it is worth it, because I'm more incentivized to use this than I think I would be for some other things. But you have the physical device, and then of course there's an app on your phone. Now I use my phone to film, so I can't just be like showing you the thing and everything, but I will put in a screenshot of the app. It's really basic. You can set different modes, you can set different schedules. Like I always set a schedule for the nighttime. One of the things, and this is one of the things I'll share, of like, I think I need to set also a daytime schedule, a time every day, or at least a couple times a week where it's also forced brick, because the thing is that because I work from home and I can unbrick at any time I want to, the brick is only as powerful as you make it be, which is the same as any social media blocker is anyway. It's only as strong as like your willpower is anyway, because for me, being in my like 1-bedroom apartment, there's only so far away I can put the brick from me where I can get up and unbrick if I really want to anyway. So what I use the brick as really is more of a like check system to stop me from unintentionally scrolling, to stop me from impulse scrolling. And so during the day when I'm trying to really focus on annotating a specific book, doing work for my author, planning a video, I can often find myself getting distracted for a minute and then opening Instagram and then opening Threads, and boom, I've wasted an hour looking at pictures of Hudson, William, and Connor Story. That particularly was happening to me back in December, January, hours and hours a day that was happening. I've shared about it before too, how I was really struggling with brain fog due to medication I was having. I didn't know what was happening to me at that time too. That's part of my like chronic illness, I know, but Instagram and Threads were not helping because it was like this constant dopamine hit I was getting with, sorry, I don't need to hold that up like an ad the whole time, but it was just, I needed to like break the connection. And so I started getting these ads for brick. I'd seen it before, but I really didn't understand what it was because I wasn't watching the ads. But finally I was like stuck on one for long enough that I saw what it was, that I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then I finally watched like a review on it. I watched a video where someone was reviewing like 4 different social media blockers. And a lot of them, like one of them I think had like a card, one of them was the brick, one of them was just the apps. One of them that I was also tempted by was one where you could, every time you like unlocked your phone, it like donated to like a charity or something, which I thought that was a cool one. But I just really don't need to be spending money on little things chipping away at me, because then I would also, I feel like, justify unlocking things because I'm like, oh, you're donating money. And I mean, because yeah, it is an investment for the brick, but I also appreciate that because the reason why they make this expensive is that this isn't a subscription model, whereas a lot of the other ones I saw, they were like, you were paying monthly for it, and if you ever, you know, like stopped paying for it or something, you know, then you like lost it or whatever. Whereas for the brick, like you buy this one time and you have it forever. So even if you like decide to go through a phase of not using brick, you still have this. Like this doesn't like stop working or anything. Like you just have this forever, which I think is really cool. So anyway, but the main way that I use it, let me just explain that, because again, I'm not doing a full-on thing, but I just want to share how it helps me read more and get more work done, and specifically this week, how it did. There was 2 main days that I got the most of my work done, and that was by using the brick. So the 2 main ways it helps me are, it helps me stop scrolling in bed, because I have a schedule where it locks my social media at midnight. So it locks, there's a night mode. So there's 2 different ways you can choose it to brick things. You can choose it to only allow certain apps, or you can choose it to allow everything but certain apps. So you can choose to set it up 2 ways. So at nighttime, I have it lock everything but YouTube, my banking app, Spotify, and like Audible, I think are the only things I let myself access after midnight. And then when I, like during the day, when I do a social media, I call it my work periods or whatever, I brick up Threads, Instagram, Facebook, Google Chrome, because I was using Chrome as a workaround to get to X and other things because I don't have the X app on my phone. And then I'm still able to get onto, you know, like YouTube and YouTube Studio and all of those things. So those are the ones that I brick, because what'll happen then is when you click to open the app, it'll say this app is bricked or whatever. And that's really all I need, because a lot of the times I don't even need to get onto Instagram. I don't need to go there, but I will be going into YouTube Studio to check to upload something, and I'll click on Instagram, and then I'm scrolling and looking to see what got liked. And I'm like, why are you doing this? And so I just don't like when I feel like I'm not in control of my brain. And that is what, particularly when my brain fog was really bad, I just felt like my impulses weren't my own. And to me, that's just, I had just trained my brain so much to just be that scrolling culture. And the brick, when I have those apps blocked, just keeps me from doing that. So yeah, it's very basic. The way it's set up, you pick the things to block, whatever. Now, like I said, I think I could be stricter with it. Because, oh yeah, I should say that. I mean, there's the basic things with it. Like, you can brick it by holding down the brick on your phone, it'll lock it, or you can go up to the brick and tap it to brick it. But to unbrick it, you have to go up to the brick to do it, which is why, so this has a magnet. You can put it here. Mine, because again, I have a 1-bedroom apartment, so I can only keep it so far from me, but I keep it on my fridge because I work on my couch, or sometimes I work on my kitchen table. So again, I can only keep it so far away from me, but I have it by my fridge so that when I'm ready to unbrick for the day, I get up. Usually I'm going in and starting to make dinner or whatever, and I'll unbrick, and then I can start doing everything. Or you have, I think when you get it, you have like 5 emergency unbricks. I've only used one of those. I've only used one of those, and that was just because I did poor planning and I had it bricked. I had it bricked when I had been working, and then I left the house, and I had Chrome locked, and I was needing to use Chrome when I was meeting up with someone somewhere, so I had to use it because I forgot to unbrick before I left the house. So I've only used one of my emergency unbricks since February. But anyway, where was I going with this? So yeah, you to unbrick it, you have to physically have the device with you. But yeah, I have the schedule set up so from midnight to 8 a.m. it's locked, but it will unlock itself in the morning automatically. So usually by the time I wake up, it's unlocked for the day, which is great. But during the day though, I currently have to choose to brick it up. And so that's kind of the next step I think I want to take, is choosing like maybe from noon to 5 every day to have a schedule in place that it's automatically bricked, because I don't currently do that. I just will choose like, hey, you've been scrolling too much today, it's time to brick my phone up, and I'll do that, which is, like I said, what I did this week. So I took a screenshot of it. So you'll see in my schedule for this last week, it always shows like 8 hours a day. That is the bedtime, right? So it's always going to show 8 hours on the days. That doesn't mean that I was bricking it outside of sleeping, but there's one of the days that says like 18 hours. So that was one of the days that I had it bricked for 12 or for what's 8 for, yeah, for 10 hours of my day where I didn't go on social media on my phone. I could still go on my computer if I needed to check something or answer a DM, but I wasn't using my phone to scroll. Like, I don't scroll on my computer, so it's not a big deal if I pop on Instagram on my computer, right? It doesn't distract me the way on my phone does, which is what the problem is. So, and then again, I think it was on Sunday when I got home from church, I bricked it for a few hours to help me finish up a couple books that I had to read with my eyeballs and kept wanting to get distracted by my phone. So what I think this helps with is that there were times when I had tried doing the thing before I gave in and bought the brick. I was watching the reviews and I was like, well, I can just leave my phone in my bedroom, or I can leave it wherever. But honestly, I found that that gave me more anxiety to have my phone in a different room, because I kept feeling like I was missing something. I kept always looking for my phone or being anxious that way. And whether or not that's a good thing is something else. It's the truth. I was feeling anxious not having my phone by me. And I still wanted to like have it there in case, I don't know, you just want to have your phone with you still. But being able to brick very specific apps, and what's cool too about brick is that it doesn't matter if you, like when you have your phone bricked, like again, you'll see this if you watch other people's reviews, like you can't, when you have it bricked, just delete the brick app from your phone. That doesn't help. You have to go and unbrick the device to get access to everything. So yeah, but anyway, I know that's kind of like a weird way to say it, but my point is that it really has helped, but it don't, like anything, it only helps as much as you let it do it. So this is just a resource, and other people have other resources. I'm not saying it's a perfect answer to anything, but I like that this was a one-time purchase. This isn't a subscription. This isn't a, you know, use it or lose it. This isn't a anything like that. Like I bought it, I paid $45 for it because I think I did get like a $10 off, and then the shipping was a couple bucks or whatever. It came in a little box. I downloaded the app, and then you set up the settings you want. I stuck it on my fridge, and that's it. There's nothing more to pay for. I use it as much or as little as I want. That's in my hands. There's no penalties if I do. I'm not going to get unsubscribed or lose anything. And it's as useful to me as I want it to be. Like any other tool in your, you know, at your disposal. And that's why I think the brick is so smart. And I think it's really great. And I do believe too, like if you're in, you know, a multi-person household, like one brick, I think your whole family can use it. Also, if you want to have multiple bricks, like you don't just have to use your phone with one certain brick, like, because I know some people have like big houses or things like that. I've watched some of the videos where people have one at work and they have one in there. Like if they have their like office is in a different place, like, you know, like in their garage office or whatever. I think as long as you have a brick, it works. I don't believe you have to have like your phone synced with a certain brick. It's just the brick is what undoes it. So, because they'll do that. They'll say like get 2 bricks, like if you have lots of space to cover. But like a whole family can use like 2 bricks or whatever. So I think that's really cool as well. But yeah, you can set the modes however you want, and you can restrict it as much as you want. So like I'm saying, I've been using it since February. There are phases where I'll use it every day and I get in the mode. And then there's times where I don't use it for a week and I'm like, I should have been using my brick more. So like I said, the next phase for me that I want to use it even more is I think to start actually setting weekly modes instead of just the nighttime mode, so that it's kicking in without me having to choose it. Because that's the thing, I work from home. So if I set a mode to work from noon to 5 and I'm done by 3, you can go unbrick it. It doesn't force you into it. That's just a mode that it'll do automatically, right? The same, like I've woke up at 6:30 before it's done at 8, and you can go unbrick it early. Those are just modes where it will automatically kick in and off without you having to do anything. So I think the next phase for me is to set up preset modes where I don't have to think to do it. It will just start working, so that I can be reminded to be like, hey, you don't need to be on social media right now. So anyway, like I said, that's my little review of it, just from someone who I bought it and I'm using it. And I think it was worth the amount now, having had it since February, it truly has helped when I need it to, but it is only as helpful as you allow it to be. It can't force you to use it, right? Unless you set it up and you let it work. And again, there are ways around it. Not necessarily once it's in brick mode. Like, I think it's the strictest once you're using it of not letting you work around it. But, you know, I have a tablet. There are times where it's bricked and I'm on my tablet scrolling and I'm like, what are you doing? That's the point of the brick. So I haven't downloaded the brick app onto my tablet, which I think I can. That would be probably a boss move to do if I also bricked my tablet, and I haven't done that yet. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate y'all so much, and we'll see you next time.